There we go. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning. Welcome to a Brighter Day broadcast. Host Pastor Isaac again. And I am so excited about this series that we've been in on leadership and developing leadership and expanding territory, increasing our capacity. I am so excited for you and for you to understand and for you to know that you have already been fully equipped to expand your reach through others. On yesterday, as we talked about, we have to learn to delegate and we have to choose members of our team that we can entrust with specific tasks regarding our organization and regarding, the plan and the purpose, the project that we are endeavoring in at that particular moment. And remember, we go through seasons. And as we are going through seasons in life, things have to change. We have to make adjustments. Don't get stuck. Come on, somebody. We cannot get stuck in a method that has already expired its usefulness. Sometimes we get so accustomed and comfortable with a method and how things are moving that we fall behind the times. There are so many examples of that. When technology started to really get momentum, there were certain companies that refused to change its methods because they had a monopoly on the system, on a process. And as a result of them remaining with their methods, they got left behind. And as a good example of that, take a company called Kodak, who was a major player in the photo development industry. And as photography became digital, they were still in the film industry, and they were advised to keep up with the times, but they refused, and their share of the market plummeted. We, just like Kodak, if we get stuck in methods and ways of how things used to be and how things were, then we get left behind. We have to stay current. Come on, stay current in your field. This is why we have continual education programs. Leaders are always trying to learn new ways, new methods. They're always gathering ideas from their team. That is one of the things that I always try to do. My mentors, especially my father, he would always tell me, he said, son, when you get into a place of leadership, never treat people as a number. Never treat them as less than. If you value your team and if you listen to them, listen to their ideas, include them in decisions, share with them those things that are behind the door. When your team feels and knows that they're included, they will be loyal. They will go above and beyond what you have laid out in expectations for that particular task that they have been assigned. These are lessons that my father was teaching me as a young man. I was still in high school when he started really developing that skill set on how to value your friend, your neighbor, your employer, your employee. Come on. It was a skill my father had mastered. And when I got into the military, and the minute I started supervising grown men, my method was different because of the learning and the teaching I had received. Instead of dogging people because of my positional authority, because that's what happens in the military a lot. Individuals that don't know how to be a leader, they have positional authority by rank and grade, but they have no leadership authority. But you have to respect the authority of the position, but you don't necessarily respect the authority of the individual that's exercising that authority. I ran through that. My very first command, the USS New Jersey. It was so top heavy because it was the show ship of the entire world when it got commissioned by President Reagan. We were there as a true deterrent and show of force. But I had so many individuals in the goat locker, in the wardroom, that were so proud of themselves, and they didn't know how to be a leader. They had positional authority, and they exercised their positional authority, but they had no respect from their juniors. I'm not saying all of them were like that. I had 2 or 3 individuals out of 1,500 that I can remember that I had great respect for because of how they exercised their authority. I had a conversation with a chief. I was just an E3 at the time, and he pulled me into the office. And he observed some behaviors that I had that were really not productive. And he shared some information with me that changed how I started thinking. But positional authority is nothing if people don't have respect for the one exercising it. So my lesson was, if I valued those individuals who I was supervising, and if I included them as to why certain things had to be done, because in the military, oftentimes it was do as I say and don't ask questions. That's really how it is. You don't question authority in the military. You've been given an order, you carried out, and if you have a question after you've done it, then you can possibly raise your hand. But that's not how I was a leader. The guys that were assigned to me, I would share with them why we was doing this, the importance of what we were doing, why we had to do this daily maintenance, this weekly maintenance, this monthly maintenance, biannual maintenance, or annual maintenance requirements. What was the significance of getting that accomplished? And when you can share with someone that failure can result in a loss of limb or life, no matter how small or insignificant something may appear, such as changing a light bulb. No one pays attention to those things. Or why it's important that you have to grease this mechanism once a month, even if that thing is not used. And you can share with them that what happens is that because of the elements, the salt in the air when you're at sea, it gets into these mechanisms and it will cause that lubricant to freeze up. So you have to push out old and constantly push in new, so that the gears don't freeze. If you have to use this piece of equipment, you want to make sure that it's functional and operational, because someone could lose a limb or life if it's not done properly. So when I started sharing information with guys, I didn't have to pump and prime them, because they understood it could be my life, it could be my limb in jeopardy if this isn't done. I hope that's making sense to somebody. It got to the point when I was a first class, and because of my methods, my second classes, my third classes, my leading seaman, I would have my meeting with these guys. And because of how I was teaching them to lead and why it was important, when we deployed, we would pull into a port, and before we would go and be allowed to go on liberty, I didn't have to tell them what needed to be done, because I had already demonstrated how and why. So my chief, Trent Cook, he could leave immediately while everyone else in the goat locker scrambling, most of them because they didn't trust their team. But he trusted me enough to know that everything was going to get done before I allowed one person to leave. And the funny thing is, they didn't want to leave because they realized what needed to get done and why. See, that's the part of leadership that is truly missing, is that you want to lead somebody, but the people need to know where you're going, how you're going, when you're going, why. Why is the biggest missing element. When you know why something has to be done, how you get it done, when you get it done, is second nature to you, because the why will always trump everything else. If the why is not important, then you have to micromanage. But when you can make the why important to somebody and show them the keys, they will use those keys. They will unlock their own ability and skill. They will increase their capacity, which increases your capacity. So I showed them these things, and we will pull into port. My chief at the time had the freedom to walk onto the beach, never having to worry. It only took, I told you, we would bump heads, not necessarily in a bad way, because he had a method on how he wanted something done. I had a method. We wanted the same end result. But there were times we were like this, and we needed to be like this, which meant if I'm over here, and he's right here, I had to now come in line, not here, but had to come in line there, under his leadership, which meant I'm learning something because he's been there, he's done that. He's been someplace that I'm trying to get to. Even though I think I know how to get there, he's already been there. So it'd be foolish of me to go here when he's already here. I need to come here so that now I can learn something. That's what I did. I came under what he was teaching. Even there, I'm bumping heads because in my mind, I'm like, man, I know how to do this. But I had to say, wait a minute. He's a chief, you're first class. There's something in him that got him there, and you're trying to get there. So now it's time for you to listen. Swallow your pride. In fact, don't even swallow the pride. Eliminate the pride and listen. And that's what I did. And there was always something that would click behind what he was teaching, by how he demonstrated it. He walked what he wanted me to know. He didn't just talk it. That's what I appreciated about Trent. He walked the walk. I told you there was only three people that wore khakis that got my utmost respect. My senior chief, Dale Duffield, who I served with on the Gray, Trent and Mike Jackson, that I served with on the George Phillip. Those were three people that impacted me, that showed me what was possible. And as a result of them, I was able to put my khakis on and make chief. Because I watched them, I observed them. I didn't always agree with them, but I watched what they did, how they did it, the integrity by which they did it. So when you are in an area of leadership and you want to increase the capacity of your teammates, first you teach them, then you trust them. And you give them the reasons behind, not just because I said so. That's the worst thing a leader can do, is tell someone because I said so. Positional authority is not a place of respect. The position has a voice, but the person that's using the position should be in a place where they desire for people around them to be better than they are. I always wanted my junior sailors to exceed and to excel. I never once held someone back that had great skills or had a desire to do something. I pushed them. I always pushed them. Even if it meant losing them from my division, I wanted them to succeed, because if they succeed, I succeed. That's my thinking. When you succeed, I succeed. If I've had anything, any contribution in your life, when you succeed, whether I receive a thank you or not, when I see you succeeding, I realize that I had a part in that. And my reward is not coming from man. Let's be clear. You may shower someone with words and gifts, but when you understand mission and purpose, and you start walking in your mission and in your purpose, you realize that you're working for a higher calling and a greater reward. When you can look in the mirror and you can say to the person in the mirror, you've done all you could do. You've done the best that you could do. Don't get satisfied with that. Now look that person in the mirror and say, but we can do better. I tell my kids, whom I coach, I say there's two phrases you're going to hear from me. One is going to tell you you did good. And one, I'll tell you, you were outstanding. And they understand what that means. When I tell them they did good, I tell them, here's the response I demand of you, because I'm demanding greatness from you. I'm not coming into your life for you to be mediocre. No, I'm not coming into you for you to remain the same. I'm going to pour all that I know to help you become better at this craft. So when I tell you you've done good, your response is, Coach, good is not good enough. I can do better. And in the beginning, it takes them a while to catch on to what that means. Because when you've done good, but you know that you can do better, and if better is possible, good is not enough. When you catch on to that principle, that good is not enough for me. I want to be better. I shall be better. I can do better. I will do better. I must do better because others are depending on me to be better. The person in the mirror is looking at me and asking me the question, is that all you got? You mean to tell me you're going to settle for that when you know you could have done a better job? When you know if you studied a little bit harder? If you know that if you avoid foolish distractions and conversations, if you know that the company you keeping is a detriment to what you're trying to do, you mean to tell me you're going to stay in that environment? Or are you going to make a choice to be better? That's the decisions that we have to make. That's what I taught my guys. That's what I coach my kids. Don't ever settle for just being good. Be better. So my guys got the principle, and we worked hard at improving because they knew why we were attacking what we were doing, why we did it with such energy, why we did it to the point where no one had to remind us that this needed to be done. I gave them a reason to be involved. And when I put my khakis on and I got my first command as a chief, we were deployed. And when we pulled into port, because of the principles that I had taught my guys, I recall being on shore many times, and I'm going to a restaurant to eat, and I'm walking by myself. My guys are out, they're friends, they're partying and whatever. They see me, and they all come. And one of the things that they said to me that meant so much to me, they asked me, where you going? I said, well, I'm going to get me something to eat. And they said, we're coming. And I said, no, you're not. They said, no, Chief, we're coming with you. We got to protect you. And I'm like, what do you mean you got to protect me? They said, before you got here, we had someone who had on the uniform, but they were horrible. They treated us like dirt. And if something should happen to you, we know what we're getting. We're going to get someone just like that. So we ain't letting nothing happen to you. As long as you're on this ship with us, we got you. And I was like, wow. I really had no idea that that was the type of loyalty that I had created. But a great leader wants to have that type of team around them. And so when it was time for me to transfer off that ship, I had created an environment in my division where, in spite of who came, my first class, my second classes, my third classes had developed a reputation throughout that command that others emulated. And we started to see a transformation, because I started to see a transformation take place in the goat locker. That's the chief's mess. It got to the point where the commanding officer asked if I would be the chief master at arms of the command. And he would have conversations with me when someone would get written up, and he would ask me a question. He would say, Boach, you think we can save this person? Is this person salvageable? Otherwise, they're going to get a bad conduct discharge. They're going to the brig. And their life basically is going to get ruined. And I would often tell him, let me have them for 6 months. Let them work with me for 6 months. And in 6 months, if I can't turn this person's life around, then the decision is up to you. And oftentimes, individuals that were getting in trouble, they had issues at home, they had issues with communication, because people in the military, they don't care about you. They care about themselves. But I cared about them. And I would have conversations with guys, they were married, had children, and I would ask them, why should I care more about your family than you? And I would give them something to think about, because I would have that man-to-man, heart-to-heart conversation with them. I would ask them about their family. I knew my guys' families. I knew their children's birthdays, their anniversaries. And I made sure that they knew I knew, because I would remind them, man, today's your daughter's birthday, your son's birthday. When you call and wish them happy birthday, let them know your chief said happy birthday, your wife. And they'd be like, what? I said, remind them that you're working with someone that cares. And that generated loyalty. And these guys that the commanding officer would ask me to work with, I would sit and I would listen to them. I would hear their story, their background. First question, why did you join the Navy? What was it about the Navy that interests you? So let's work a plan together. Let's put a plan to see how we can get you to accomplish those goals. What is it that you desire to do? If you just desire to do 4 years, that's fine. You want to make a career out of it, that's another story. But let's put something together, and we're going to work on it every day. If there are courses that needed to be done, let's get these courses in your hand. Let me connect you with somebody in that area, and in your free time, I want you to go to them, because I'm going to make sure that you have access to them so that they in turn now can be a mentor for you in that area, if that's the area that you're looking to get involved with. That's what I did. And I even did that on the corporate side when I retired. I had so many individuals that came into my area. And I would sit down with them and ask them, so what is it that you really want to do? Now, my problem was, because of how my team was, it was hard for me to get people to leave. Because they knew some of them had come to me from other departments, and the quality of life that I was able to help them realize what was possible for quality of life was so important to them. And they knew if they went somewhere else, that was going to change. They may have been able to get more pay, but they wouldn't be able to enjoy it because of the environment that they would be going into, but there were those that didn't care about. They just, look, I want that. And I'm like, okay, let's get you to there. How can I help you get to where you need to be? If I help you, I'm helping me. As I said, when you start helping others, don't worry about them telling you thank you. When they reach levels of success and you know that you were a stepping stone, you were a key, a door that they were able to go through to get there, you have a greater reward, because when you look yourself in the mirror, you know what you've accomplished. You know when you've done a good deed, a good job. That should be reward enough. Let what people say roll off your back. Continue to be a help. Continue to be the leader that you wish you had. See, if you become that voice for others, that advocate for others, you'll change a generation. You'll change everything around you. So this morning, if I leave this with you, increase your capacity. Through others. Help them reach their goals. Help them realize the possibilities. Take this with you. When better is possible, good is not enough. God bless you today.